Welcome to Business Winners, a digital edition of Energy Salon 21. My name is Olha Bosak. I am CEO, board director, and advisor, a business lady working in energy industry. Now, in a time of global crisis, I have set myself the goal to identify, present, and connect those people who manage to survive in difficult times. I aim to establish an effective interaction between bravest and strongest leaders of energy sector. I want us to share our ideas, insights, and innovations. I strongly believe that united efforts of global energy business winners can enhance our ability to influence the main challenges of 21st century. Right now, let me introduce you to a very special guest, Matteo Patrone, the Managing Director at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who is responsible for Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. The bank holds a portfolio of over 7 billion euros in those two regions. Talking about Matteo Patrone, his number one industry knowledge is finance. In addition to his extensive experience in financial institutions, Matteo also held various positions in any groups in the UK and Italy. If you look right now to the EBRD activity Matteo Patrone is currently overseeing, I am sure you will be not less impressed than I am. Matteo, what is the main secret of your success?
Thanks very much, Olga, for the very kind introduction. I don't think there is any secret. If there is one, is probably my team. I've been blessed with a fantastic group of people that I have a privilege to work with in Kiev and in the other 5 capitals of the region I'm in charge of. And it's just a pleasure to lead a group of talented people that have a passion for their work, a passion for their mission, and that wake up in the morning and that look forward to serving their clients. And talking about clients, that is another ingredient of the success that the EBRD is having in this region, is we have managed to develop a very constructive partnership with a number of stakeholders in these countries. And that led us to the success we had in 2019, and hopefully we're going to be able to repeat in 2020.
Okay, great team, and good partnerships, and being very positive. So that's what I see. You are very positive, very enthusiastic, and yeah, 3 main things. Please pay attention. But Matteo, right now there are many discussions if an impact of global lockdown will have a crucial influence on the economy. So what is your thinking? Will we reach a bottom? Will this fall will be very loud? So actually, what are chances of the economic growth in the nearest future, and what are most important indications for investors? So what do you think? How investors shall react? What investors shall take into account while choosing investments for next 5-10 years?
Well, this is a very difficult set of questions. It's not even a difficult question, it's a difficult number of questions. So let me try to tackle it, or to tackle them really. Well, first of all, this is a crisis like known before, because it's a global crisis, and it has started as a supply chain shock when China had to close down an entire region, and that then has developed in a demand crisis when, as an effect of the lockdown in a number of other countries, the purchasing power of the population of those countries has dramatically been reduced or completely gone to zero. And that actually has been compounded by a number of corollary crises, which probably now they are recovering a bit. For example, the crisis on the price of hydrocarbons. So there was also a commodity shock to be added for a number of countries and economies and markets. And there is no doubt that the effect of the lockdown will have a very significant impact. That will mean a significant contraction of GDP at global level for 2020. The question is whether these crises will have a V-shaped development, a U-shaped development, or what some people call the Nike-shaped development. Yeah. And that is a function of a number of things. The first one is whether the attempts we are having now of easing the lockdown can consolidate without any resurgence of the pandemic. And unfortunately, in some countries, we see that actually happening, but also fortunately in some other countries, that is not happening. So to be seen how that will develop. And also we need to see towards Q3 and Q4 whether we're gonna have another resurgence, regardless of whether we are opening markets now or not. So that really is a question more for an epidemiologist than for somebody who is a market practitioner. But assuming that this is not gonna happen, then there are chances for this to develop as a big crisis. And so there are expectations, as you know, that markets will contract, the GDPs will contract by about 3–4% this year, which is a delta of about 6–7% from the original expectations in terms of GDP growth. But then in 2021, we may see a rebound of the economies by 5–6%. And if you look at for example, at the financial markets, take the Dow Jones, before the crisis, we were at 29,000. In March, we went down to 18–19,000. Now we have recovered to 27,000. And today, I was checking just before we got online, the Dow Jones was gaining about 3%. Now, so the expectations are that the monetary measures and the fiscal measures that the government and supranational institutions have put in place will yield some significant results. Now, the question is, so we had a first phase where the safety of people have been put in the maximum priority, and very rightly so. Now we are moving to a phase where we need to protect livelihoods, employment, and therefore purchasing power, but also the ability for economies to restart quickly. And again, the fiscal and monetary measures that have been put in place by a number of institutions are of crucial importance. And for instance, I'm very pleased to see that the European Union is taking bold moves in that sense. And then we need to make sure in a third phase, again, assuming that there are not resurgence of epidemics, these will consolidate, and we will take advantage of this shock and the opportunities that also a crisis brings with itself. For instance, and I'm not going to venture on what's going to happen in 5–10 years' time. Nobody knows. If 5 years ago, somebody would have told you in 2020, all economies would have been completely put in a therapeutic coma, you would not believe it. So, but there are some opportunities stemming from this, and going from onshoring of some manufacturing activities to tilting to green, as we have seen, and you are in the energy sector, so you know that very well. We have seen that the quality of the climate change in the past few months has been improved, and this is a perfect opportunity to make a quantum leap in that direction. One of the topics that one of the issues that is very on top of my mind in this period is that this crisis has exacerbated inequalities. We were on a very positive trend. If you take in 1990, about 36% of the worldwide population was living under poverty line, and in 2019 that number went down to 8%. But this crisis necessarily will affect more vulnerable parts of the society. So we need to make sure that this issue is tackled in the years to come. And then there is also an opportunity to learn from what we are doing now. I mean, working from home could be a practice that is going to stay. In this sense, artificial intelligence is something that will be explored. More competitive segment of industries should be explored, and that is something that is an opportunity at global level.
Well, thank you for the great overview. Again, very optimistic, pointing to opportunities. Thank you for that. And now I would like you to tell us a little bit more about investment perspectives in those two regions you currently work in. Your insights are more than valuable, and especially for potential investors.
Well, as you mentioned, these are actually two regions, or even probably more than that. The 6 countries I'm in charge of are a very composite group of countries. There is not much of homogeneity among them, but all of them have been obviously affected by COVID-19, and in a number of ways. And first of all, because there has been a supply chain shock in some of them. There has definitely been a demand shock in all of them. And in some of them, specific sectors have been more affected than others. Take tourism in Georgia, for instance. Tourism in Georgia, or also in Armenia, but in Georgia accounts for 20% of GDP, but it's very important also in other countries. Some specific sector like automotive has been affected quite dramatically also in places like Moldova, for instance. And some other countries are affected by the commodity shock that I mentioned before. Azerbaijan, clearly in the hydrocarbon sector, but countries like Ukraine or Armenia for other natural resources, ferrous and non-ferrous materials, or agricultural products for Ukraine. And on top of that, in these countries, there is a strong impact in terms of reduction of remittances, which are a big contributor to the purchasing power of the population of these 6 countries. So clearly there is a strong effect. We foresee at the BRD that overall there will be a reduction of GDP of around 4.5%. But our base scenario is that there will be a rebound in 2021 by another about 4.5%. If you look at Ukraine in particular, these numbers are fairly similar, as a GDP contraction of 4.5% and a rebound of about 5% in 2021. Again, on the base case scenario, whereby the easing of the lockdown that is currently undergoing will consolidate, and we will not have a resurgence of the epidemic. What happened in Ukraine, in my view, the supply chain effect has been muted in Ukraine because the Ukrainian economy is still in the process of being integrated in a global value chain. But the demand shock definitely is there as an effect of the reduction of purchasing power of Ukrainian citizens, but also as an effect of reduction of international demand. As a consequence of that, also fiscal revenues will be affected, and therefore it is important that macroeconomic stability is protected, in particular because there are a number of international exposures that will need to be repaid over the course of 2020. So in this context, anchoring the macroeconomic stability of Ukraine with the IMF standby arrangement that is being finalized these days is of crucial importance. And it is indeed a source of optimism in terms of bolstering the recovery. And I think that Ukraine went into this crisis in a much better shape than in the past. And of course, some fiscal measures have been put in place, and significant monetary measures have been put in place. And that was possible because the banking system is in a much healthier state than it has been in past crises. And that goes to the credit of the National Bank. What's going to happen in the future in Ukraine? Well, to me, Ukraine has a tremendous opportunity because of its human capital to take advantage of the opportunities that globally the crisis will present, in particular onshoring. There is an opportunity for the manufacturing sector of Ukraine to be a good fertile ground for investments, for foreign investments, and foreign investors that want to repatriate in Europe some of the production facilities that have been disrupted over the crisis in Asia. But also there is an opportunity for local investors to adventure in more or higher value adding segments of the value chain, in particular in the agribusiness sector. So there is a lot to be done. I didn't mention the IT sector, but obviously that is part of it. I think there is a lot to be done in Ukraine. The important thing, the crucial thing is to maintain macroeconomic stability, continue improving investment climate, and with that, definitely a big ingredient is rule of law and predictability. And again, I'm fairly optimistic that we may head in the right direction.
Well, thank you very much for joining Business Winners. I'm Olha Bosak. This is Energy Salon 21.
Thank you very much.